Walking around Harare's international airport, I am struck by the stark contrast that defines Zimbabwe. The building is new, modern, and spotless, a bold statement of ambition. Yet, the quiet corridors and sparse crowds hint at the untold story of a country still struggling to find its footing. Earlier, as I walked from the check-in counters to the departure gates, I couldn't help but think about the lives outside these walls, the coffee farmers, the drought-hit communities, and the ever-present resilience of a nation waiting for its moment to rise. This airport feels like a dream deferred, a gateway to a future that always seems just out of reach. The new airport in Harare is quite nice, but it's a little bit empty for this time of the day, which is 9:30 in the morning. You would expect it to be a bit busier, and what do we have here? Wow, Cafe Nosh. Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm in need of a good coffee. Nice.
$50 for your printing.
Huh?
Money for
You need a?
$50 for your content.
Fascinating. So I sit here in yet another airport lounge, but this time Harare International Airport, or Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport. Again, just a moment of reflection. And Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is always, a little confusing, especially when you are as emotionally connected to it as you naturally would be if you've lived in the diaspora and this is what you call home. So I came here, but I had a mad 3 days. I got here in the evening, then on Friday early in the morning I went out and I drove out to Harare, stopped over in Marondera at Mushe Coffee, had a fantastic conversation over there, which will either be a part of this video or it's already been a part of this video, or it will be a separate video completely. And then I got to Harare, went to the Zimbabwe coffee mill. So one of the things that I thought about was I get Zimbabwean coffee to the UK, and the whole idea with Changamire Coffee is to involve coffee farmers in downstream value-added activities. So we get their coffee into the UK and we roast it and we retail it and we sell it to consumers, particularly the homebrew market. So I was going to bring the coffee from Zimbabwe, roasted in the UK, down to Cape Town, and I thought that really doesn't make sense. I mean, coffee would have moved from Vumba, come to the UK, get roasted, and come down to the Cape Town Coffee and Cocoa Week. So what I then thought was, no, I will go to Cape Town, then go to Zimbabwe, pick up some coffee, get it roasted, and go back to Cape Town. So I got some coffee roasted by the Zimbabwe coffee mill, by the good old Q grader Daram Lambo in Tare, and I also had another batch roasted at Mushe Coffee. Fantastic work the guys are doing at Mushe Coffee. Shout out to Ngoni and Tino. Tino is also part of the first Zimbabwe barista throwdown that's starting. That's going to be launched next year, ahead of the first ever Zimbabwe Coffee Festival as well. So I've picked up some coffee. Now I'm on my way back to Cape Town. But Zimbabwe is a paradox, because I also had a chance to go down to Buera just to visit my rural home, where we are doing some work there to kind of rebuild or upgrade the parents' homestead. I you're always torn between a country that seems to be okay, doing so well, but at the same time, you can't help but notice quite a number of problems, socially, economically. So that's why I say it's a paradox. It's quite confusing for me because of obviously the emotional attachment that I spoke to earlier. So I am, however, pleased with what is happening in the coffee scene. I had a useful conversation with the Minister of Agriculture yesterday. So I am quite pleased with what is happening. There seems to be a new focus after years of campaigning and lobbying. There now seems to be a specific focus on coffee and the revival of the industry, and that is always good when government gets involved at that level, because you need a policy framework or institutional framework for anything to really do it. You can't do it just from commercial activities only. So so the coffee scene is looking positive. Managed to go down to Vumba, which is the setting for a lot of activities that are going to be happening next year. And so I'm really pleased with what is happening in the coffee. I mean, although there's been a serious problem in terms of the production, there is something going on within the coffee environment. I was talking about the problems that we've had this year. There's been a drought, a severe drought. It's even driving around the country. I went to Buera. It's really terrible, and there's prediction that the country is not going to get anywhere close to normal rainfall again this year. So I shudder to think what the situation will be this time next year if the same cycle of drought is repeated. But that has had an effect on coffee. Coffee is highly sensitive to precipitation and temperature. A slight variation in rainfall, quantity and consistency, it affects coffee quite significantly. So production has been affected. So production is quite low. But we are hopeful that the overall activity around the coffee production, scene is positive. It keeps growing. So the farmers keep working even through, the lack of a shortage of water. So we're hopeful that by the time it comes through, what they're desperate for is infrastructure, but with the government now being involved, that might help, because what they need is irrigation infrastructure and supporting various other inputs. But they keep working. That's the beauty about this, that they keep working. And I predict that in the next 5 years, Zimbabwe's coffee is going to be everywhere. It's going to be everywhere. So as I went to board my flight to Cape Town, just thought I should sit and talk about this. And now I'll enjoy my cappuccino at Cafe Nash by the airport. And as the wheels lift off from Robert Mugabe International Airport, a paradox of emotions settles over me. Below, Zimbabwe unfolds, a land of raw beauty, untapped potential, and deep contradictions. The gleaming airport, still carrying the sheen of modernity, hints at ambition and possibility. Yet, its near emptiness tells another story. A country where the grand gestures often overshadow the grim realities. This place is a symphony of almost. You see it in the coffee farms, where farmers wrestle with erratic rains and global markets, livelihoods balanced on a knife edge. Zimbabwe's coffee, once a jewel in Africa's agricultural crown, struggles to find its way back, and yet the quality is undeniable. It's a microcosm of the nation, rich in promise, yearning for revival, but always hampered by something just out of view. As we climb higher, my thoughts drift to the drought-stricken plains. This land, which should be bursting with food and industry, instead fights hunger and despair. It's not that Zimbabweans don't know resilience. They are some of the most tenacious people I've ever seen and I've ever met. But resilience without resources is a cruel burden. It feels as if nature and policy conspire to keep them treading water, just short of flourishing. And then there is the airport itself, an undeniable achievement, modern, spacious, seemingly ready to welcome the world. But where are the planes? Where are the travelers? This infrastructure, a symbol of hope and progress, is a touching metaphor for the nation. Zimbabwe builds as if willing a brighter future into existence, yet the bridges often seem to lead nowhere, spanning gaps filled with poverty, corruption, and stagnation. Yet still, I can't shake the sense of love that I feel for this place. It's an affection born not of blind optimism, but of a deep appreciation of its potential. The rolling hills of the Eastern Highlands, the power of Victoria Falls, the warmth of its people. Zimbabwe is not a failure. It is a question mark, a place perpetually on the brink, tantalizing in its what-ifs. As the plane continues to climb, I am left with a heavy heart. Zimbabwe is the nearly child of Africa, close enough to greatness to see it clearly, but never quite able to grasp it. And yet again, I can't stop rooting for it, hoping that someday the pieces will finally come together. Maybe, just maybe, the next time I fly into this airport, I will see a bustling hub and a country that is no longer almost but undeniably whole. The coffee at Cafe Nash, it was great. And thank you to Barrister Nicholas. See you next time.